Welcome to Black and Gold Digital Edition, a behind-the-scenes look at your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Digital Black and Gold segment. I'm Jay Puskar along with Kent Urbanski and Mike Fenner. And guys, the talk after Thursday night's game was the melee in the last 8 seconds between the Browns and the Steelers. You were both there at the game. Kent, you were field level for the final finish there. How nasty, how ugly did it get in the last 8 seconds between Myles Garrett, Mason Rudolph, and everybody else involved?
Right. Well, you know, that's the old photographer's adage is you never stop shooting until it's over, you know, because all it took was 8 seconds to change the whole dynamics of that game. And it was ugly. 31 years doing this, I don't think I've ever been as intimately close to something as violent and nasty as that. And the last 8 seconds of that game last night.
And Mike, your impressions, especially when it came to the post-game reactions as well.
The one thing I appreciated was that everyone talked, everyone talked and owned it up, and no one was running away from the cameras on this because this was a huge deal, but everyone was willing to talk. Myles Garrett spoke, Larry Ogunjobi spoke, Marquise Pouncey spoke, I mean, Mason Rudolph was at the podium as well, and everyone kind of saying, hey, this got out of hand, this got away from us, you know, mistakes were made, it was ugly. But yeah, unprecedented is, I think, the word to go with for this. It's crazy.
And to make it worse, it's a nationally televised game. This is a Thursday night game. I mean, if this is a game that takes place at 1 o'clock in Cleveland, it's still going to get the buzz that it's going to get, but this is magnified 1,000 times more.
No doubt.
And especially the way the implications of the playoffs are starting to shape up and the way the regular season's starting to wind down. I mean, this is a huge story.
Right, and it is. And the shame of it all is that the Browns got a victory after 5 years of losing to the Steelers in what should have been talked about the next day as a major victory for the Browns is marred by this last 8 seconds of that football game, and that's the shame. That's the shame of it all. And what I didn't like was the surroundings around me, where people were celebrating it, were enjoying, rejoicing, and all. And I'm looking at people. I'm like, you have no idea of the seriousness of what we just saw here. You guys, the Browns won this game tonight. But in the long run, they're going to lose because they're going to lose some players for a long time.
Well, and Baker Mayfield even said it in the post-game comments during the Fox coverage, is like, we can't have this. And you know what? This is basically the theme of our season with the bad penalties, the undiscipline that they have. They're going from being a legitimate winning organization to doing stuff like this that continue to bring them back to the level of, here we are, we're the Cleveland Browns yet again. They can never get over that hurdle. But I do like the fact that Baker Mayfield stepping up, being the leader that he is like, this is uncalled for. We cannot have a winning culture here when we continue doing these things.
The one thing that caught my interest, though, is Freddie Kitchens saying this is not who we're going to be, but a lot of people are firing back saying, well, isn't this who you are? I mean, isn't this kind of who you've been? Not to call them dirty explicitly, but just saying all the different undisciplined methods that they've kind of gone with this season. It's kind of like, hey, I mean, he's kind of at the forefront of that. You do respect that Mayfield comes out and says that, but yeah, this team's been kind of marred by all those different mistakes and just the way that they've been so undisciplined this year and kind of reared its ugly head, obviously.
And of course, overshadowing everything was just the poor performance by the Steelers, especially offensively. Now, in their defense, James Conner gets banged up yet again with that shoulder. He had to leave after 5 carries. Juju Smith-Schuster gets knocked out with a concussion because, again, a lot of physicality in this game, but Mason Rudolph just didn't play well. The offensive line didn't play well, and that's something that they have to correct if they want to continue being in the playoff talk.
Right. Hey, look, you and I discussed before that even taping this show that I had a bad feeling being on that field that something was not going to go right in that game for Pittsburgh, and I just felt like there was going to be a lot of energy on Cleveland's side of the ball. Really amped. They were really going to be amped up.
Well, their season was on the line too.
Coming off the Bills' victory, AFC opponent, the Steelers coming into town, and they on national spotlight. They were really, I think, a little bit more charged up for that game, and I think that was evident in some of these helmet-to-helmet collisions and hits that were being delivered in that game. They knew exactly what they were doing going into that football game. I think that was going to be a tough game for the Steelers to go, road game for them to win there. Both teams, I think, paid the price after that game.
No question about it. And Mike, the team is now 5-5. They were in an 0-3 hole, and they were able to dig themselves out of it. Are they still okay, or are they
Oh, yeah.
starting to see some troubles and some cracks in the armor?
No, I mean, you can't give up on this team, and like you said, I mean, they've faced every bit of adversity all of the season. They've lost their quarterback for the year. They've lost several other guys for the season. They've had in-game injuries. They've had to climb out of that hole to win 4 in a row. The schedule they have left, they're still well in it. It's just going to be interesting to see how they get it done or how they put it together. But I don't think there's any reason to panic. Even if you want to take solace out of anything, I think that game felt like they were down 3 or 4 touchdowns, and they had a 1-score game going in the fourth quarter. I mean, Cleveland just couldn't put the foot on the throat there in terms of in-game until that last drive to go up.
Defense for that
Yeah,
too, you know?
exactly.
I mean, it's they were doing their job, and the offense just wasn't helping them out at all. And now with all the injuries, how much can the Steelers really keep going to the well to replace these guys? I think that cupboard's going to start running thin, and hopefully 10 days gives them an opportunity to heal up a little bit, but I'm looking at them losing Pouncey for a couple of games. That's a tough guy to replace right there.
And not to really harp on the situation, but how much could this possibly rally the Steelers a little bit, knowing that Mason Rudolph was getting attacked, whether he started it or not? It was a very chippy game out there on both sides, but to see his teammates come up and defend him and have guys come up and push other guys around and protect their quarterback, is that something that can really galvanize a team and bring some more energy and just a brotherhood to the locker room?
Yeah, sure can. I mean, and if you listen to Pouncey talking in the locker room after the game, he's like, dude, I blacked out. You know, he said it was all reactionary, and then that's all it was. And we've all been victims ourselves of overreacting in emotional situations when your emotions get the best of you. But what happened that night? That's almost violent beyond emotion.
Yeah, no question about it. And Mike, moving forward with the Steelers now, they're going to have a few extra days considering that they played on a Thursday night. It's got to be nice at least to heal up, rest up, kind of reevaluate everything. But then their schedule still has them favored to win some games even though they go on the road for a couple games.
I think this is about as perfect a schedule the next couple weeks as you can get, because you get a Cincinnati team that's reeling on the road. They've turned over to Ryan Finley. That's a team that's just out of it. And then after that, you talk about Cleveland getting charged up for Pittsburgh.
Oh, Heinz Field's going to be
Heinz Field is going to be
electric.
Unbelievable when that team comes to Pittsburgh in a couple weeks. So I think that's the perfect time now when you consider the schedule for that game to be played. Now you don't have to wait till week 16 or 17. They're not going to forget about that at all.
No, and I hope it stays on the field though in a professional football manner. And believe me, the NFL is going to make sure that
no question about that.
They will make sure there's nothing extracurricular going on in that game for sure.
And not even from that standpoint alone, but also we saw the huge helmet-to-helmet hits. I mean, there were some really nasty hits. Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, that both got knocked out of the game because of those targeting calls. I mean, it's going to be a tightly called game, I would imagine.
And it surprises me when these guys make these helmet-to-helmet hits. They act like I didn't do anything. Why am I getting thrown out? And when you see the replays, I mean, it's pretty egregious. I mean, it is the crown of the helmet spearing into the next guy, and a lot of these guys are so defenseless. And it's starting to become scary. We saw Mason Rudolph get hit earlier in the season where he laid out motionless, and Juju Smith-Schuster now getting hurt too. I mean, the league's trying to clean it up, but guys are still going out there playing a little bit reckless when it comes to playing defense.
Well, in order for them to clean it up, they need to look at this game right here and make some drastic changes. Some suspensions really have to
Now,
come
if you're the
down,
commissioner, I mean, based on the timing of when we're taping this on Friday morning, what kind of suspension would you hand down to the various guys that were involved?
Well, what was the guy from the Washington was it the Redskins, Albert Hainsworth, that stomped on somebody's head? And
that was when he was with Tennessee against the Cowboys.
Right.
2006.
And you've got the likes of Adamaka Sue having some moments.
Well, those guys got, 5 or 6 games? So I'm looking something similar here. I think Garrett is done for the season myself.
What do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett's done for the season. I could also see somewhere 3 to 5 games. I could see Pouncey 1 to 2, and then I'll be interested to see if Rudolph gets anything. I could see either way on that.
Maybe a fine, or even maybe missing
and
one game or
Ogunjobi as
whatever.
well, probably.
I'm even looking for the 2 guys that did helmet to helmet on Juju and Deontay Johnson getting a game suspension.
Yeah, Denarius
as well,
Randall's in there. Yeah.
So.
Well, lastly, guys, with the time off for the Steelers, is this just really good for them now to just, hey, we got that game in. It wasn't pretty. We didn't play well. We lost, but we've got some time now to lick our wounds a little bit and regroup and move forward with. They always say around Thanksgiving is where you want to start playing good football. This probably doesn't come at a better time.
Hey, listen, Tomlin's done, in my estimation, a heck of a job getting this team to this point. They're not just going to give it up after one loss in Cleveland, a tough road game. They'll be back.
All right, guys, thanks so much. Kent, Mike. Got some time off before the next one when the Steelers travel to Cincinnati for another divisional game against the Bengals. We'll see if they keep them winless on the season. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for Black and Gold Digital Edition.